It's up to the American people.
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. If I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. And it's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
Jews will not replace us!
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Are you willing to condemn white supremacists and militia groups?
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
Please rise for the horribly and unfairly treated January 6th hostages.
There'll be a lot of pardons and commutations of January 6th defendants.
Yes, absolutely.
You tell your supporters now, no matter what, no violence.
And it's going to be a bloodbath.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than two.
He just glosses over the fact that he sent out tweets during the riots, but the tweets that he sent out paint a very clear picture of somebody that doesn't want violence. The opposite of what the media portrayed.
2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
Regret? What did he do exactly? You're acting like he did something, like he incited violence. That is fucking bullshit. He didn't incite nothing.
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace.
All right, this guy who suspiciously seems like a Fed orchestrated the entire January 6th riot. Now, everybody that was at January 6th got a record, and they were in prison for months. Some of them are still in prison to this day. But for some reason, they wouldn't charge this guy who escalated and started the entire thing, the whole insurrection, supposedly. But they would not charge him. Eventually, they charged him for a year probation, but that's only after outrage. This clip I'm about to show you is hard to find on YouTube. Very hard. They censor it, and anytime you show it, they always put a label that you're a conspiracy theorist, that this whole race situation is a conspiracy theory, and it's not true. And they put like a little warning label on the YouTube video. It's insane.
I'm going to put it out there. I'm probably going to go to jail for it. Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. What? No! Peacefully. Fed.
But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask you.
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
Regret? What did he do exactly? You're acting like he did something, like he incited violence. That is fucking bullshit. He didn't incite nothing.
Yes, or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died.
Okay, nobody died on January 6th. That was a police officer. One guy died days later because of a suicide, and they try to paint it like he died on January 6th, but he didn't. This is a lie. Kamala is lying. Nobody died on January 6th, except for the government shooting an innocent Trump supporter. The government setting this whole thing up is what got somebody killed. The government is responsible, not Trump.
And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
He was simply saying that the left wing and the right wing, each side has decent people. He wasn't saying the alt-right were part of those decent people.
Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine, all he does is build car manufacturing plants. He's the biggest in the world.
And this is a common term used, bloodbath, to refer to the market economy as to why it's plummeting. And this is something that politicians use all the time. It's not unique to Donald Trump. This isn't the first time a politician ever used this. They all have, one time or another, used the word bloodbath as a way to refer to the market economy plummeting. It's, again, not unique to Donald Trump. They've all done it. Even Biden, who has condemned him for using that term, has used that term in that way. And what's funny is he was talking about the automobile industry when he was using this term. He wasn't talking about political violence at all. It is literally in the definition for it to be used in this regard.
On Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect.
This is the supposed racist speech she's talking about.
Racism is evil. And those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans. We are a nation founded on the truth that all of us are created equal. We are equal in the eyes of our Creator. We are equal under the law, and we are equal under our Constitution. Those who spread violence in the name of bigotry strike at the very core of America. 2 days ago, a young American woman, Heather Heyer, was tragically killed. Her death fills us with grief, and we send her family our thoughts, our prayers, and our love. She just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in.
You see this mugshot? They wanted this mugshot to mark the end of Donald Trump, the moment he was erased. But believe it or not, today it stands framed in a golden frame hanging on the wall in the White House. Not as a scar, but as a goddamn trophy. A testament to survival. A reminder of the lengths the left will go to silence the will of the American people, if left unchecked. They will destroy your entire life and anyone who supports you. They impeached him. They indicted him. They raided his home. They planned the fake insurrection on January 6th. They arrested his supporters, including people who are identical to you. They called him a fascist, a Nazi, a dictator. They called him literally Hitler. They even tried to kill him many times. They even made him a felon. For what? I'll tell you why. For daring to disagree. This makes the leftists foam at the mouth. They hate when people oppose them because the fact is, they are the dictators. They will do anything to stop you, criminalize you, bankrupt you, and even kill you. This abuse has gone on far long enough. It's the Americans' people turn to run things now and put a stop to this political bullying once and for all. No one should be persecuted, silenced for disagreeing. We need freedom of speech again. At the end of the day, this was never about Trump. It was about you, the American people, the factory worker, the trucker, the parent standing up at school board meetings, the patriot who dared to push back. He stood up for you, and he got in their way. They went after him with all they had, and we still won, and they lost. Again. But make no mistake, if Trump wasn't there, their efforts to silence and this political bullying would have been on you instead. They would have gone after you. They still plan on to, but Trump is in their way. They wanted Trump destroyed because he refused to kneel, because he refused to let them own this country. And now he's back in the White House, and his mugshot hangs as a warning. They tried everything, lies, corruption, violence, but nothing could stop the will of the American people. We will never surrender. Fight, fight, fight.